Welcome to the C-Suite series presented by Channel Check and Noble Capital Markets. Noble's an SEC-registered, FINRA-licensed broker-dealer and the source of the equity research available on Channel Check. Today's interview features Aurania Resources, OTC ticker symbol AUIAF, TSXV ticker symbol ARU. Noble Senior Research Analyst Mark Reichman interviews Aurania's CEO, President, and Chairman Keith Barron. Visit channelcheck.com or click the link in the description to access equity research, news, and advanced market data on Aurania, all at no cost. And now, here's Mark and Keith.
Hi, Keith. It's great to see you.
Great to see you too, Mark.
Keith, would you provide a summary of the company's flagship project?
Yeah, Aurania has been working on what's called the Lost Cities Project for 6 years now. We're into year number 6. It's a big belt of rocks. It's all contiguous. There are no holes in it. It's about 500,000 acres, which translates to 208,000 hectares. Down on the border area with Peru, it's in Ecuador. And it's contiguous with a belt to the south called the Condor Belt, where there are more than 20 known porphyries, one of which is in production right now. That's called the Mirador, and a major gold deposit called Fruta del Norte, which is in fact what my former company discovered with me as VP Exploration and the largest shareholder. We discovered that back in 2006 and sold it in 2008. And basically, I'm back again about 100 kilometers to the north in what I believe is the extension of the belt. And in fact, the exploration that we've done over the last 5 years here has certainly borne that out. So we have many different mineralized systems here, different scenarios. We've got porphyry copper, we've got epithermal gold silver. For the first time in Ecuador's history, we found copper, silver, and sediments in shales and sandstones. And that's a really big system. It actually goes for 22 kilometers. It's incredible. And at one end of that, we have a lead, zinc, silver system as well. You know, it's well, I call it the embarrassment of riches. But it's no real surprise to anyone. If you were to take the Condor Belt to the south and superimpose it onto our property, you would get this kind of thing. And that was certainly in the thinking when I acquired this property way back in March 2016.
Now, what are the Lost Cities' most significant inherent advantages, and what would make it most attractive to, say, a major?
Well, we called it the Lost Cities because we were tracking down 2 lost gold mines of the Spanish conquistadors. We found one of them. It's actually an alluvial mine, a placer mine, just to the south of our project. But we believe that the hard rock occurrences that we have on our concessions are actually washing down into this river system and providing that placer. So that's very interesting for us and really for anyone in the gold space. We've got 2 epithermal gold silver belts recognized by geochemistry. Both of them are 30 kilometers long. This is really quite spectacular. There's nothing like this really out there anywhere in the Cordillera. Gosh, if you wanted to get a land package like this that was so prospective, maybe you got to go to Mars. And because there's water now on Mars, there's probably some nice mineral deposits, but I don't think that's going to happen in my lifetime. In any case, we've got a lot to play with here. You know, I suspect that it's going to have a similar sort of mineral endowment at the end of the day in what we call the Cutucu Belt that is inherent in the Condor Belt just to the south of us.
So it's really a large continuous land package that would be very difficult to replicate and very, highly perspective and largely unexplored until you uh, acquired the property, correct?
Yeah, in fact, the only company that we can find evidence of that was on the property was Shell Oil. And they were looking at the sedimentary package for, well, they found some asphalt and bitumen in it. We're not chasing oil, but that was done in 1940, a hell of a long time ago. And for various reasons, the mining companies ended up focused in the area to the south, largely because there's a lot of placer gold there, and not so much on our property. The mineralizing systems where we are have not been subject to a lot of erosion. They're largely intact, and that's certainly a good thing because we're not looking at a situation where a third of it or half of it has been washed away through erosion over time.
Could you just elaborate on what your exploration and drilling programs have revealed in terms of the types of mineralization and targets?
Sure. Well, some of it is right at the surface. It's obvious what it is. So we've got porphyry copper type alteration with molybdenum and a little bit of gold at the surface. In other places, we've got copper with high silver grades in sediments, in shales and sandstones. First time that's ever been seen, and that's at the surface as well, and extends for 22 kilometers. It's a massive, massive target, string of targets, really. And then the epithermal gold stuff, um, they're blind targets, they're geochemical targets. So we're getting high levels of what we call pathfinder elements. These are things like arsenic, antimony, native mercury, and they're in the soils and in the rocks at the surface, but not a lot of gold. Now, I might add that Fruta del Norte, my previous discovery, had no gold on surface either, and that was found purely by drilling geochemical anomaly, much like we have at the present on this project.
So now, what are your goals for each of these targets? I mean, you've got the porphyry copper, the sediment-hosted copper, you've got the silver, zinc, lead in the sediments, and the epithermal gold. So what is your approach going forward for each of these?
Well, any junior company would be happy and most satisfied having any one of these targets or groups of targets, and it would be enough to sustain a junior company. In our case, it is a very big land package. It's 500,000 acres, as I said, and it's all essentially all mineralized. So, what do you do in this case? It's a nice problem to have in a way. It's a nice problem to have in a way, but what we need to do, we can't be unfocused and try to attack everything all at once. And of course, the market is not in greatest of shape right now to allow for us to do that. So we have to prioritize, and porphyry copper is a lot easier to hit with a drill hole than a blind epithermal gold system. Plus about 12 kilometers south of the southern boundary of our concession block, a company has found a copper porphyry cluster called Warinsa, and that company in question went all the way from 30 cents up to a high of $17.50. And shareholders said to me, "Well, you've got the targets. Why can't you do the same?" Which is, that's a fair comment. So it's in a situation where you don't have all the money in the world, it makes more sense to be deploying it where you think you're going to get the most bang for your buck. And with this is all educated geological work that we've done, and if we have some success, um, we raise money at much higher prices, and then we have potentiality to attack more targets and more types of targets. But I must say, one of the things that I've been focusing on in the last couple of months here is to talk to a number of major companies to potentially get some joint ventures going. We can't hold on to all of this big land package forever, and we know that. If back in with my previous company, we had 93,000 hectares. We've got 208,000 now. But if I had broken up that company into a copper-focused company and a gold-focused company, then the shareholders would have had a chance at least two bites of the apple. And we drilled two of the porphyry coppers and proved that that's what they were, two of the targets. So, this way, I think is a much more logical and rational way to proceed. And I think if we get, considering that we're in a belt of rocks that's never been previously looked at by a mining company, if we have any success here at all, then I think that the street is going to be saying, "Gosh, these guys have potentially got another Warintza on their hands," and the stock should, well, I hope that it explodes. But I'm not a crystal ball reader. I'm an optimist because I have to be an optimist, and if you're not an optimist, you shouldn't even be in exploration. But uh, we we don't. It's not like throwing darts here. It's educated guesswork, and it's built on a lot of geological, geochemical, and geophysical information to put a story together and mitigate the downsides here. So we've got a bunch of things that we picked out to drill, and we're going to give it our best shot.
Well, now you do have two very promising copper porphyry targets, both Tatasham and Awacha, which you're planning to drill soon. So, what excites you most about those targets?
Well, Awacha is a huge target. It's 12 kilometers across. We've got both copper and moly in soils and in geochemistry in stream sediments on surface. And they're big conductive zones. So there's obviously porphyry there, and the question is how many. It's going to be a cluster. You can't have a porphyry that's 12 kilometers long, so it has to be a cluster of different porphyries, that makes it very, very attractive. Um, Tatasham is probably a cluster as well, but smaller. That's about 3.5 by 5 kilometers in size, but it is a massive, great magnetic anomaly. And I've been wanting to drill this thing ever since we did the geophysical survey in 2017. But it just takes time and money and energy to get the work completed and put all the component parts together. But I think we're there now.
Well, how soon do you think you'll begin drilling at Tatasham?
Tatasham, it's looking like the end of this month, the end of November. At the very latest, it would be the first week of December, and would carry on through the December period. Very short break for Christmas, and probably right up into January.
And then Awacha would follow.
That's correct. Yeah.
Now, what gives you confidence the drilling program will be successful, and what will you be looking for in terms of gauging its success?
Well, gosh, I'd love to hit some high grade. This is exploration. It's not production. There's no guarantees with this. Now, I've worked on porphyry coppers before, and as I said, I drilled two successfully in the belt to the south. This is it's not easy, but it's not rocket science either. These are big, big targets. Our goal here is not to hit the highest grade because it is not coming to surface. We don't see the thing at surface. It's to get ourselves situated in a system and have enough information, which will be encouragement to do more drilling and give us areas to focus in.
Now, with respect to the sediment-hosted deposits, what is the significance of your recent reinterpretation of geological data associated with the Tiria Shempia target?
Well, it's really turned the whole thing on its head. We found, actually, it's a little bit embarrassing, but we had a paleontologist dating the fossils, and unfortunately, the dates were incorrect. And the core of the property is 90 million years younger than we previously thought. But this is not a disaster. In fact, it's a positive in a way because it's outlined a structural feature called a graben. Graben is a German word for ditch. This is a depression, and it's formed by faults, bounding faults, and these faults very typically will be conduits for mineralizing fluids. And in fact, when you plot up where the zinc and the silver is on the ground in outcrop, it lies right along the faults, these basin margin faults. That's very, very interesting for us because we think that potentially there's going to be a copper-rich zone at depth below where this zinc is occurring on surface. So it gives us a whole bunch more drill targets, which we didn't have before.
Now, for investors that may be unfamiliar, we've already identified some of these different types of mineralization, and you mentioned that the potential for joint ventures. So which are the ones that you are really exploring joint venture agreements, and would these sediment-hosted deposits fall into that category?
Everything's on the table. If a gold company comes to me and they want to do a deal on the gold story, then we're quite amenable to that. I just don't want to give the whole thing away in one package because we're dealing with multi commodities here. I guess in a way we're fortunate. Most of the gold companies don't want to mess with base metals and vice versa. So, we've got optionality here to do a number of different things. Honestly, everything's on the table here. And as I said, we're getting to such an advanced stage here where, uh, most of these things are going to need a lot of drilling. And they're big, big systems. There's nothing like this out there in the marketplace. It behooves uh, one or several companies to climb on board here and give us a hand, both with their technical know-how, but also financially. That's where I see the company headed.
Well, during your long career, you've negotiated a lot of these types of agreements. So could you just maybe uh, talk a little bit about what a joint venture agreement might look like and what the upside to Aurania shareholders would be?
Yeah, yeah, I'd be happy to. Well, the way that these things work, companies finance themselves by issuing equity. We don't have any producing projects, so that doesn't make any sense taking on debts. Though I have personally lent the company money from time to time. I'm also the largest shareholder. It works out. But in any case, if you have to continuously finance and issue more and more shares, you're kind of splitting the pie by more and more different ways. So the interest in the project versus an individual share is going to decline over time as the share count increases. That's just the way it works in junior mining. Now, does it make more sense to do a deal? Eventually, if a project is good, you're going to get swallowed by a major. It's either going to be in a friendly takeover or a hostile even, but you will go at some point if the project's any darn good. So the middle ground here is if you do a deal with one of the majors, and let's say that, I want to stress I'm not in negotiations with anyone today, but I am talking to a lot of different companies. That it could look like a company does a buy-in over time. There are various thresholds, milestones where they get a percentage of the project or a percentage of the company if they make a certain investment to, say, a maximum of, let's say, for instance, 70%, and they buy in up 70% of the project, and then the other 30% would be held by Aurania. And, in the best of all possible worlds, we get a free carried interest all the way to production. Sometimes it's a free carry to a feasibility study, a positive feasibility study, or a bankable reserve, something like that. There are various thresholds, and certainly anybody who's watching this can look up various companies that have done this in the past. Now, what happens usually down the road, your partner will eventually gobble you. But that typically happens when you get up and running and you're in production, and and usually it's just a friendly thing, and that's the time that I hang up my boots and I go to the beach again, like I did last time.
Well, now, what catalysts or events will drive the stock value, say, over the next 6 to 12 months?
Well, obviously, if we get some nice intersections in the porphyry copper story, or if we get a deal with somebody, I think potentially both of those could happen. Though, I'm not as I said, I don't have X-ray vision. I can't tell you what the grades are going to be of any porphyry story. But hopefully we're going to connect here, and we'll have not just copper in the system, but it would be great if we had an appreciable amount of gold as well in the rocks. That's in the hands of the man upstairs. So we'll see what we get, but we have a number of things here that are obviously going to be drivers.
Well, Keith, thank you for joining us.
It's always a pleasure, Mark. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us for this C-Suite interview presentation brought to you by Channel Check. View our YouTube channel for more video content, including C-Suite interviews, virtual roadshows, and conference presentation replays. New content is added regularly, so subscribe below to stay up to date. Visit channelcheck.com or click the link in the description to access equity research, news, and advanced market data on this and the 6,000 other small and micro-cap companies listed.